Okay, this video is about the end of the year, the end of each semester. So I made this video so you could kind of know where this semester is going and what's expected of you at the end, so you could kind of formulate your lessons or plan accordingly. So I'm going to walk you through what I do, how my grades look, and kind of what's expected from you versus what I do. So this is what's expected of you at the end. You need to have a grade sheet, and it needs to have their Chinese name, has to have their English name, and it needs to be out of 100% is the score that they get. So as you can see, some of my assignments are conversations, vocabulary, work from their workbook. There's a few other things scattered in, midterms, and the final exam. I keep track of these grades on a more messy grade sheet, and I keep these just with me in class, and then I write down their scores. Now, I do not use all of their daily scores in their grades. I have found that if there's an assignment that I want them to do, I want them to care about the things they do in class. And I have found that the hands down best way to get them to care is to write down a number next to their name and have them get a score on something. So when they get a 0 on something, it's a big deal to them. And whether that makes it into the grade book or not, it helps control classroom behavior, helps students understand that it's important. So this is kind of what I use. There's some behavior things, just notes I need to make. So this is how I keep track of everything. And then periodically I'll enter it into a gradebook spreadsheet, which I'll share with you, and then kind of keep current on that. Not necessarily all the time, but at the end, this is what's expected of you. So I'm going to walk you through my final exam, and I've been giving this style of exam for 3 out of the 4 years. The first year I kind of experimented with different things. So my final exam, here I'll give you a picture of what a student's exam looks like. So this is the final exam that I keep track of, and it goes along with a PowerPoint that coincides with what I teach in the class. So in every class, I try to have reading, writing, listening, and speaking in some form, and the final exam reflects that. So for example, the first section is an ask and answer. They don't get to see the questions, but I just ask them. So one of the units is about museums. So I ask, well, which museum do you want to visit and why? And then if they answer, oh, an art museum, then I give them 1 point. Or if they say, I want to visit an art museum because I really like to look at paintings, I will give them 3 points, the total points. The next section is vocabulary words from after the midterm. So as you can see, we have Western holidays, things in the room, weather, signs, and I will just pick 10 of those at random, point to them. They need to identify the picture. And these slides are what I've used to review and teach these words. So they're very familiar with them. And then I just circle how many of the 10 that they knew. And then the next section are review words. So here's the review words. And these are the words that they had to learn before the midterm. So every one of my finals has the new words and then the review words so that they're kind of cemented into their brain. And there's that. So the next section is actually a reading portion. And this one is more about pronunciation for me because they can kind of bluster their way through, but they need to have perfect pronunciation because these are kind of the concepts from the book. So like I said, which museum do you want to visit? I saw many robots. They're so useful. It's stormy outside today. When is Christmas? I went to the science museum yesterday. I just make sheets that have the sentences from the book, and we'll use these to play games. We'll use these to review. And then in the final exam, again, it's something they're familiar with, and they can if they can read it with perfect pronunciation, then they read 10 of them and they get full points. The last section is the writing portion. And I choose sentences that they've used in their workbook to write, and then I give each student 4 out of those, so that I have them study all of them. So they have 4. It's listen to what I say and write it down. And then, however, I have it out of 12, so each one is worth 3. And if there's one wrong, then yeah, I mark it wrong because a lot of them they should have from a long time ago. Um, this section I changed over the last few years. I used to give it individually, one by one, and for smaller classes that works, but for bigger classes there just wasn't enough time and it takes them a while. So is what I did is I would have one row of students at a time and I would give them the 4 sentences or 3 sentences and they would write those together and then I'd give the next row, or you can give every other row. It's just so they don't cheat on it and they can't look at their neighbor. So this is my final exam, and I've found that for my class anyway, it's a great way for me to assess them, and it also assesses the 4 language skills. So I hope this was helpful in kind of knowing what to do for the end of the year.